or any other theological institution. Thanks for listening to Max Worldwide, living free through forgiveness, live on KPOG and webcast1live.com.
Yeah, sorry, Kayla was singing. Well, there she goes again. Kayla, it's time to read stories, not sing them.
You know, I was in choir in high school. I can't help myself.
All right, good afternoon. It's Friday. It's the 28th day of May in the Lord's year 2021. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and whoa, it's cold. You know, they're talking about snow in southern Minnesota.
I did not, but I'm gonna try and forget that fun fact.
Well, you don't have to worry about it unless you're going to be in Minnesota. But it's nippy out there. But clear skies for the big race on Sunday. You know what the big race is?
No idea. Please tell me.
Chimney. No, it's all right. The Indy 500.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. Is it kind of famous?
And I will ignore this because you're just teasing me. The Indy 500 is my Super Bowl. Okay,
All
so
right.
it is the biggest um, sporting event of the year unless Nebraska goes to a bowl game. Lately, they've just been in the toilet bowl. Now that you can laugh at.
No, I'm good.
Okay. And the reason it's a big deal to me is my dad's father, my grandfather, the one I just dearly, dearly miss, drove in one of the first Indy 500s.
What decade was this, Mac?
It was the 20th century,
All
so it
right.
was the last century. And it was a Model A. You know what that is? A Model A Ford. Anyway, it was a Model A chassis with a big barrel over it, half of a barrel.
Okay.
And that's where the engine's at. And I've got a picture of that, him and four other drivers coming across the finish line of that Indy. And I don't remember what year it was. It was, oh man, it had to be like the early 30s,
Wow.
1930s.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
old school cars.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, it may have been older than that. So, Sunday, the race begins. It begins at like 11:30, and I'm gonna miss the first part of it. I always record it, and then I just fast forward through it. And it takes like 8 minutes because it takes them almost only 2 hours to drive 500 miles.
Wow.
Boom, 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 boom. Anyway, if you were to sit with me during the Indy 500, I would give you all these technical things that they're doing with the car because that's what I'm really impressed with.
Mm-hmm.
Turning left, that's not a big deal to me. But these cars they're rockets.
Mm-hmm.
These things go over 200 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't know that, did you?
No, but I kind of know that's like, what, half as fast as a plane?
You know, I don't know how fast planes go, so I don't know. But anyway, so Sunday's my Super Bowl. Sunday. All right, it is Friday, and even though I think the last one I missed, I think we had to cancel it because I had something going on.
Yeah, that's right.
We like to do what we call Kayla's stories. Is that right?
Almost. It's been too long for you to remember. It's okay. It's story time.
Story time. Kayla's story time. All right. You're right. I did forget that.
Like I said, we had to skip a whole time of this. It's been forever.
Yeah, I don't know how long it's been, but we're going to try to do it on the last Friday of every month.
Yep.
That's the goal. Because you don't work on Fridays,
Correct.
so it's easier for you. And here's where this originates. I really don't want people to come on the radio and use up our radio time to just tell stories because I want to talk about the stories. But one day in church, Kayla did one of her story times. And Kayla has this, and I just want to giggle when I think about it. She has this lingo. She has this language Now, it wouldn't be language because it's English, but this way of telling a story out of the Bible that is just so super cool. I kind of did it right there when I said super cool.
Sure.
That dates me. You don't say super cool, do you?
Super cool.
Yeah, there you go. And so once a month, I like it when she comes on and tells the stories. And we'll talk about them a little. But tell us which stories you're going to read today.
Well, I'm gonna start off with Moses versus the Rock.
And where's that at in the Bible? Genesis?
No, a couple books after, Numbers 20.
Numbers 20, okay.
You ready to hear about it?
No, not yet.
Oh man, I was ready to tell it.
And then the rich ruler.
Yep, the rich young ruler.
Where's that at in the Bible?
That one is in Mark chapter 10.
Mark.
But also in Matthew chapter 19.
Oh my heavens. Okay, double billing. And then you're going to tell a story about Paul, who is being. Is he like being escorted when he does this?
Something like that. He is on trial for being a Christian, essentially. So he's going to Rome because he appealed to Caesar. So part of the story I'll be telling is how he's getting to Rome. And that one is in Acts 27-ish.
Acts 27-ish. All right, so this will be fun. Let's tell folks though, you don't have to say where, but what you do for a living, because it's really cool what you do.
Right. I work in Des Moines at a psychiatric medical institute for children. Essentially, it's a residential treatment facility for kiddos with diagnoses that make their caregivers, or makes them difficult for their caregivers to handle. So they come to this place, they just live there for a couple months, learn the skills they need to handle themselves, their emotions, their behaviors, and be a little bit more functional in society.
So we're not talking about disabilities. We're talking about, we're talking about disabilities, but these are emotional disabilities.
That's one way to look at it. I mean, they'll have psychiatric diagnoses like mood regulations, like ADHD is always one. A couple of them are on the autism spectrum as well.
Okay.
So there's a couple things going on.
That was my next question. Are there children there that have been diagnosed with? I guess every mental illness is serious, but with mental illness.
Oh yeah.
But are there also just kids that won't obey their parents? Naturally.
Somewhat like that. There is like a specific diagnosis that, if you want to put it in layman's term, yeah, it's a disobedient child, but kind of to the extreme, beyond what's normal disobedience from children.
Yeah. Do mothers bring their children to you hogtied and say, I can't take care of him anymore, I'm going to give him to you?
Absolutely never.
Okay. But I'm sure it's very frustrated parents.
Oh yeah, I mean, these parents are doing the best that they can with what they've, who they are as people and who their child is. They're just doing their best and trying to love their kid as much as they can.
Is there an age range?
Yep, we'll take 10 to 17-year-olds.
17. And once they get to 18, then they're considered an adult.
Yep, they kind of like age out of the programs that we've got for them.
Okay. Well, that would be. I honor you for what you do. That is not something I can do. I simply don't have the patience.
Thank you. It's a very, very challenging. Any place in human services has a lot of challenging bits. But I mean, there's also some really fun times. Like, I make bracelets with them. Like, I'll get paid to play volleyball with these kids too.
Oh, that's cool.
That's part of building that relationship to help them best.
Sure. Did you go to school for this?
I got my bachelor's in psychology, so I would say yes.
Okay. Are you going to go on and get your PhD?
Eventually. I mean, after I graduated in 2017, I really learned that lesson where experience is more valuable than a piece of paper.
Sure. Oh, yeah. But someday I may call you Dr. Kayla.
Oh, I sure hope so.
Well, why don't we call it Dr. Kayla's Story Time?
That would be amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Kayla's story time here on Max World Living Free Through Forgiveness on 102.9 KPOG. And also, if you've never heard this, you can also find all of our shows on YouTube. And we actually have our own channel, and it is youtube.com/webcast, the word one, O-N-E, live. So /webcast1 live. And that's where you can find all of Dr. Kayla's story times. All right, so the first one is in Numbers chapter 20, and this is a story of Moses.
Yes, it is.
I'm ready.
Well, as many of us know, the Israelites were wandering in the wilderness for a very, very long time. And they complained a lot. I think most of us understand that they complained a lot. One of these times, they were complaining about the lack of water. It's a wilderness. There's not very easy sources of water. They got really up in arms against Moses about it because they were dying of thirst. They're complaining, Moses, why did you even bring us here? Like, we should have stayed in Egypt. Egypt has, like, the figs and the pomegranates and the grain and water, too.
Now, did they name those things?
They specifically named those things.
Okay.
I'm not making that up.
Okay.
So they're demanding water from Moses. They're blaming him. They're saying, Moses, if you don't get us water, we're going to die. Our cows are going to die. Our families are going to die. So Moses and Aaron, his right-hand man, these guys were leading the Israelites together. They went and they called on God, and God shows up at the tabernacle for them, and he says, Moses, you know that stick, that rod you used to part the waters when we first escaped from Egypt? Yeah, take that rod and go in front of all of the people, and I want you to speak to this giant rock, and water's going to come out of it, and all of these Israelite people are going to be able to drink from the water that comes out of the rock. So that staff, that rod, was more of like a symbol of God's presence being there with Moses and Aaron and all of the Israelites there together.
It wasn't Moses' cane.
No, I mean, he could have used it at that point. He was probably an old guy.
How old did Moses live to be? Didn't he live to be 800 and some years old?
That is a fun fact I don't have in my brain.
That's fine.
So Moses and Aaron, they gather everybody together in front of this rock, and Moses is like, ladies and gentlemen, we've gathered you here today. Feast your eyes on this miracle that's about to unfold. And then it goes bam, bam on the rock, hits it with the rod, and a bunch of water comes gushing out, and everybody was able to drink. And then God shows up again to Moses. He's like, that's not what I asked you to do. Because God told Moses to speak to the rock, not hit it with the rock.
Oh, I get it.
And this whole section of the Bible is actually titled Moses' Error. So this was Moses messing up, and he did have to pay the price for it. And I mean, we would have to wonder, why would Moses not do exactly what God told him to do, especially when he came begging God for help? And the answer kind of lies in the fact that this story is actually a reboot. It's already happened. It's a reboot. It's already happened before.
Reboot?
Yeah, you know how like movies like, kind of like Star Wars or Jurassic, they have the old version, and then they just kind of bring it back a couple years later, and they're like, hey, it's new and improved now.
Okay.
So
that's called a reboot?
Yeah, it's a reboot.
I always thought that's when you shut your computer off and then it comes on again.
Well, yeah, that's a technical definition for it.
I see. Okay, go ahead. By the way, Moses lived to be 120.
Thanks for looking
Almost your mom's age.
Almost. Oh, man, I hope she's not listening right now. Anyway, so Moses versus the rock. This story is actually part 2. I'm going to bring us back all the way to Exodus chapter 17 is the first edition of Moses versus the rock.
That was the real boot.
That was the first, the original version of this
Exodus
story.
What?
Exodus chapter 17.
17. Okay, go ahead.
So we have almost exactly the same situation. The Israelites are wandering in the wilderness. There's no water. They're demanding water from Moses and Aaron to the point where it's an angry mob. Like, there's going to be blood spilled.
Uh-oh.
Moses goes crying to God. He's like, God, you got to help me out. You got to tell me what to do. These people are about ready to kill me because there's no water. And God tells him to do something very similar as to what he told him to do in Numbers. God tells Moses, take that rod, that staff you used in Egypt to get them all out of here in the first place, and I want you to go over to that rock and hit the rock. Water's going to come out. Everyone will be able to live and drink the water, and you'll be able to continue wandering in the wilderness for another many chapters, but you'll be alive. And so Moses does exactly that. He gathers all the people, he gathers all the elders to come with him, presumably so that the people don't try to kill him on his way to the rock to perform this miracle. And he does exactly what God says. He hits the rock and water comes out, everyone's saved, and all of the people realize, hey, this is proof that God is with us in the wilderness.
Was this the same group of people who had been wandering around with Moses, or was this like Moses' excursion part 2?
Nope, these are the same people.
Okay. Help me understand something. Didn't God punish Moses for doing this?
Mm-hmm. So that first time where God told Moses to hit the rock,
Yeah.
Moses did. It went off perfectly fine because he was doing exactly what God told him. In the second version, what I started out with in Numbers, when Moses was told to ask the rock, like demand that the rock give forth water, he doesn't do that. He hits it instead. He disobeys God, and he does it in a way that he's very kind of ostentatious about it too. When he gathers all the people, he's like, hey, everybody look at me. So he's kind of taking the glory from God for himself. And there's probably, again, there's people more familiar with the Bible than me, pastors who can read more in between the lines as to why exactly this was a sin. But yeah, Moses did get punished for that because of this instance. Moses was not allowed to see the promised land he was leading the people to.
Now, does Exodus and Numbers tell the story about one story, or did this happen twice?
This was 2 totally different stories.
Okay. So which one was it that, well, it had to be the one in Exodus then, that Moses was punished?
No, so the one in Exodus came before Numbers. The one in Exodus chapter 17 is when God told Moses to hit the rock, and he did.
Okay.
The one in Numbers, which came later, I don't know how much later, but that was the one where God told Moses to speak to the rock, and Moses, again, hit the rock instead.
Well, gee, I don't want to make God mad, but was it that big a deal to God that the first time he hit it and the second time other way around. Yeah, first time he hit it, second time God said speak to it.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't speak to it, he hit it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'd hear God be that precise. I just think, oh yeah, I did it before, I'll do it again.
Right. I don't think the action itself matters as much as the way that Moses did it, and the very fact that Moses wasn't doing as he was directed to. And this kind of leads into my takeaway from comparing these 2 very similar stories, is that God's not always going to ask us to do the exact same thing that we've done before. There's a big time difference between when these 2 stories occurred. Moses has grown, the Israelites have grown, so God's always going to...
But they're still wandering around in the desert.
Yeah, but they've got different faith, right? Times change. They're closer to the promised land now than they were back in Exodus.
How do they know that?
Not sure if they do.
But you know it.
I know it.
All right. And what's the... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your story.
No, I was just... So God asked Moses to do two different things in order to get the same miracle out of it. And the way I see it, it's I mean, Moses has been leading these people for how many years now? God is always going to challenge us to do different things in order to continue growing towards God, becoming more holy.
Boy, you're going to get me in trouble with God today. Because why would God tell us to do something different in the exact same position?
I can't say. No answer for you there.
I mean, if it worked the first time, why shouldn't he do it the same way the second time?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. Was it a different rock?
Yeah, it was a different rock, I think.
Okay. You think? You don't know.
Well, I'm pretty sure the Bible tells us, but I didn't read into that detail.
All right.
And it's okay to say I don't know when it comes to the Bible. It's a big book. There's
66 of them.
There's 66 books, yeah.
And wasn't Aaron Moses' son?
No.
No.
He was family. I think brother-in-law, maybe.
Okay.
I might be mistaken on that, but he was essentially, he was kind of Moses' spokesperson. You know how, like, presidents and a lot of politically powerful people, they'll have a speechwriter?
Yeah.
And then, like, the person who actually says the speech?
Yeah.
Moses was actually more of the speech writer. Aaron was the one who had a really good public face.
Oh.
So that was kind of when Moses was first called to grab the Israelites from Egypt. He was really reluctant because he's like, I'm not that great at public speaking or leading people. So Aaron was kind of God's way of enabling him to do a little bit more than he could have on his own potentially.
Are you saying, Kayla, that Moses had a face for radio?
Yes. Absolutely.
I resemble that remark. All right. And so the moral of the story is what?
Moral of the story is God's not always going to ask you to do the same thing that he's asked you to do before, but we should always be up for the challenge because ultimately God loves us. He has our best interests at heart.
All right, I want you to pull your mic a little closer to you. Gail, yeah, that's good. Gail says he can't hear you very well.
Okay.
Gail, let me know if you hear her better now.
Mm-hmm.
Gail's my buddy that's texting me from somewhere. All right, so tell me the moral of the story again. I'm sorry.
You're good. So again, God is not always going to ask us to do the same things that he's asked us to do before. Things change. He might just be challenging us to grow further towards the direction of him and his glory.
Yeah, the first time I'm going to tell you to hit the rock, and the second time I'm just going to tell you to yell at it.
Yep.
Jiminy Christmas. All right. That's our first Dr. Kayla's story time on this Friday, the 28th of May in the Lord's year 2021. I'm J. Michael McCoy. She's Dr. Kayla, and we're doing some of Dr. Kayla's story time. And the next one that we're going to do is found in Mark 10. You also said it was in Luke?
Matthew 19.
Matthew 19. And this is the rich ruler.
Yep.
All right. Take it away.
All right. So in Mark 10, around verse 17, you have Jesus with his disciples, which is a pretty common scene. Let's be honest. That's most of the New Testament. Jesus just hanging out with his disciples. Well, they're approached by this random guy, and this guy shows up. He's like, hey, Jesus, Rabbi, teacher, tell me what I need to do to get eternal life. And Jesus replies, you know the commandments, right? Like the big ones, like...
Me?
Yeah. What are some of them? Jesus lists them off, but let's see which ones you can name.
This isn't Quiz Mac Day.
Oh, it is now.
Well, there's thou shalt have no other gods but me,
Mm-hmm.
which I think people hopefully understand that you have no idols other than him also. And when you say idols, we all can unfortunately probably raise our hand and talk about some of the idols we have that are close to being God.
Modern day idols, they're not made of wood or stone or anything.
Right. They're clothing or cars or jobs or whatever it is that we put before God. A lot of times addiction is an idol because we put that before God.
I feel that one.
Yeah. All right. Then there's the thou shalt not give false witness, which means don't lie. And it is a little lie. It's just a little white lie. That's not covered under that commandment. You can tell a little white lie, right?
I would say no. Not that I don't do it occasionally, but hey,
Well,
if it gives you that guilty feeling, that's the Holy Spirit being like, yo.
now sometimes we have to learn about the commandments and how serious God is when we shrug our shoulders and say, well, it was just a little white lie. And I always tell people it's like being pregnant. You either are or you're not.
Yeah.
You either lied or you didn't. And little white lies, I think, are the devil whispering to us, just like he did with Eve. Oh, it's not that big a deal. God won't care if you eat from the tree.
Trying to blur those lines.
Yeah. Then there's the adultery one. Don't commit adultery, which a lot of people don't understand. And quite frankly, I'm not going to go through it here on the radio. Then there is hold the Sabbath day.
Yeah.
Always honor the Sabbath, which is Saturdays. Then honor thy father and mother. Thou shalt not covet. I don't know. I can't remember the last three. What else is there?
Honestly, I feel like a terrible Christian because I can't name them all right off the bat too. I used to when I went to like Sabbath school as a kid.
Well, yeah, do me a favor and jump on Facebook if you're out there and tell us what the other three are. I mean, I know we could look it up, but we're not going to.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are the other three? That's crazy that I don't think of them.
If it helps.
Graven images, is that one or is that part of
No,
one?
that's part of idols.
Okay.
If it helps, Moses helped get like the first physical version of the commandments. So we were just in Exodus, Numbers, so that area is where you can start hunting.
Yeah, well, and I don't know if you know this, but there were originally 3 tablets, and each tablet had 5 on it. So there were the 15 commandments.
Okay.
And then Mel Brooks dropped one of the tablets, and then he changed it to 10.
Okay. That is a
You
fun
have
fact.
no idea what I'm talking about, do you?
No, I'm just taking in this info for me to Google up later.
You know who Mel Brooks is?
Name's
Kind of.
familiar. I can't tell you exactly why though.
Great comedian, film writer, film producer, actor. He did a movie called something about the world. Not We Are the World. That was Michael Jackson. History of the World. And he played Moses. And he comes out from behind this big rock with the 15 commandments that God has just given him. And he stumbles and he drops one of the tablets. And he goes, the 10 big commandments. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
What were those 5 though?
Yeah, what were those? No, I got 7, so I'm missing 3. All right. Now this is just my opinion as well as yours, but what do you think was the proof that God gave us, you and I, the proof that Moses in fact did make it to the promised land? Let me say that differently. That God blessed Moses beyond a normal blessing, even though he had screwed up and suffered a punishment.
Okay. So, just to kind of throw your question back at you and make sure I understand, you're asking essentially what the proof is that Moses was still in God's favor, that
Yes.
he's still going to be in heaven with us.
Yes, that's much better put than me.
Okay.
What was that?
I mean, you can look at the end of Moses' life. I can't recall off the top of my head, but I believe there were some very nice words spoken, some very nice prayers, and
You mean when God was doing the eulogy at the funeral?
exactly.
How about the Frank? It's called the what's it called? When Moses and Elijah.
Enoch and Elijah was translated to heaven without seeing death. Moses was taken to heaven after seeing death.
Right, but what transfiguration?
No, that's when Christ came on the Mount of Transfiguration.
I
Right.
know, but that's what I want.
Translation.
Translated.
Translated. I think you're thinking.
No, I'm thinking the transfiguration. We then got to see Moses,
Oh, that's Christ on the Mount of Transfiguration.
Well, yeah, but
with
Moses
Elijah
and Elijah.
Moses.
Yeah.
Moses.
yeah,
and
that's
that-
what I was thinking.
That's
too.
the proof to us, and you put it better than I did, that Moses was still in God's favor.
And just one quick thing.
All right, Frank.
Aaron was Moses' brother, and I read somewhere that Moses had a speech impediment like a stutter.
Mhm.
So he didn't like to speak publicly. So
Okay.
Yeah.
you're right.
Thanks for backing me up, Frank.
Yes.
Oh man, I wish he wouldn't come in. I just wish he'd stay out of here until 2:00.
Hey, you invited him in.
I
Yeah.
did, didn't I? I did. Okay. Well, I wasn't thinking of that right at the moment. Don't steal. Misty says, don't steal. Don't kill, and honor your mother and father.
Mm.
I think I had the honor your mother and father, but I didn't have don't steal and don't kill.
Yeah, those are two big ones. I would
Yeah,
say.
thou shalt not murder. And I think it's interesting that Jesus, I mean, I was always okay with that commandment because I was never going to break that one. I never saw myself, I mean, I'm not a physically violent person ever, never. But Jesus told us that even if you hate someone in your heart,
Mhm.
it's like killing them.
Yep.
Boy, does that change a lot.
Oh, it changes everything.
I can't hate anybody now.
Yeah, I was just talking to a friend about the idea of this because all throughout the Old Testament, we're really going down a rabbit hole with these commandments, but all throughout the Old Testament and the culture that Jesus was born into, the religious leaders were very much in tune with the letter of the law, making sure that they were doing exactly what the Bible told them to do. But it was all based on actions. It was all based on things that you did. It wasn't focused on what was in your heart, what was going on in your brain. Then Jesus shows up and he's like, it's not just about what you do. It is about what is in your spirit, like what's behind everything. So that's part of why Jesus was such a revolutionary. He shows up and says there's more. There is more to being a godly person than what you ever thought before.
Oh, yeah. All right, so I actually Googled it, which is sad that I have to do that, but it is. 1, thou shalt have no other gods but me, which also includes idols.
That's a good one.
2, shall not take the name of the Lord in vain, so we didn't have that one.
Yep.
Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Honor thy father and mother. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. False witness. Covet thy neighbor's wife. If you could see her, you know I'd never do that. That was I'm sorry, Mac. That's not something I should be saying out loud.
Hey, you recognized it immediately.
Yeah,
Good
I
job.
know. I did. Thank you. And then the last one is, well, 9 and 10 are basically the same. You know, you're not supposed to covet your neighbor's wife. And then we go to thou shalt not covet the neighbor's goods, like their donkeys and stuff. Anyway, so those are the Big 10.
The Big 10.
The Catholic version.
Well, no, it's not, because it said to keep the.
They split the 10th commandment into 2 on coveting.
Okay. All right. So now we are going to move on to the rich young ruler, which is found in Mark 10 and also in Luke. Go ahead.
Yep. So we started off down this whole commandments gig because Jesus was about to give this rich young ruler the Cliff Notes version of the 10 Commandments. Because this guy had shown up, he says, what do I gotta do? Jesus says, don't cheat, don't kill, don't steal, don't lie, don't talk about people rudely, and also honor your father and mother. So that's like the Cliff Notes version that Jesus gave this rich young ruler who showed up asking for help.
Yeah, basically he came to Jesus because he wanted to be one of his disciples. He wanted to follow him, as you might say.
Not necessarily.
Oh.
I mean, he straight up asked, "What do I need to do to live forever?" He didn't really want to
Oh,
follow
it was
Jesus.
well, but that isn't that. Did he? Okay, never mind. Go
I
ahead.
mean, being a disciple was a whole profession.
Well, but yeah. Okay, so he just wanted the benefits
Mm-hmm.
from following Jesus, not the work.
Yeah, possibly.
Okay.
But I mean, when Jesus told him to do these commandments, he replied with, "I've done all this stuff since I was practically a baby." And I'm going mostly from Mark's version of the story, but Matthew, the reason I mentioned that one is because Matthew quotes this rich young ruler as asking a follow-up question to that. He said, "What do I still lack?" And I really like that question.
Okay, so rich young ruler. Do we have a name for this dude, or was he just rich young ruler?
We can call him Rich.
Okay, Rich, the rich young ruler. I'm getting a headache today. 24 minutes left. God help me. Says, I want to live forever. How can I do that? Basically. And Jesus says,
"Keep these commandments."
all right, and that would be the Big Ten.
Yep.
And then you said in Matthew's version, he asks a follow-up question.
The Rich does.
Rich does, yeah.
Rich says, "I've done these commandments for almost my entire life. What do I still lack?"
Okay, so what am I doing wrong?
Exactly.
Well, what sin am I committing that I couldn't define by the Big Ten?
Yep.
And what does Jesus say?
Jesus' response to what this guy can do is go get rid of all of your material wealth, give it to the poor, and then come and follow me, be my disciple.
See, that's where I got the part of the
Yeah.
disciple. So Jesus was inviting him to be a disciple. Rich wasn't necessarily applying for the gig.
Right.
Okay.
Jesus invited him.
All right.
And Rich got real sad real fast because he's got a lot of stuff. He doesn't want to give it up, which is kind of understandable. I mean, we all live in the physical world. It'd be really hard to give up everything you've got, even if what you've got is only a little bit. So, yeah, this story is pretty sobering, actually, because it's one of the ones that doesn't have a happy ending.
Right.
You always hear about these stories. I mean, you have all of the disciples that were invited, just like this guy was, and they immediately followed Jesus. But this guy, who had been essentially not following Jesus, but following God's law for his entire life, still felt that there was something missing from his life. He was going through all of the motions, but he still knew there was something he was missing. And he was smart enough to know that that missing piece was something Jesus could provide. But when Jesus handed him that answer, he struggled with that, struggled with accepting that, and that's real sad. And after Rich leaves the disciples to kind of decide on what he's going to do, we never get a follow-up, by the way. We don't know if Rich takes Jesus' advice or not. And the Bible just doesn't give us that side of the story.
I wonder if, I was wondering, I was going to say out loud, I wonder if the movie series The Chosen will tell us what happened. But no, they won't, because it wasn't in the Bible. That's the great thing about The Chosen. It only follows the Bible. So, okay. Someday, Dr. Kayla, I'll lay down on a couch and act like I'm talking to my therapist.
Sure.
And I'll tell you the story of someone who lost everything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Someone you know. Yeah. All right. So it is 20 minutes before 2 o'clock on this Friday, the 28th of May in the Lord's year 2021. Dr. Kayla's story time is what we're doing. And I think if you started to listen from the beginning today, you understand a little idea of why I really enjoy Kayla coming on and doing these things, because You understand you have this lingo, right? But you don't work at it, do you?
We can call it the language of my generation, maybe.
Okay, so this is just your so if someone of your generation was listening to this, they would say, Mac's crazy. What's he talking about? She talks like a normal person.
Yes, I would hope so.
Okay, because you just said something a little bit ago that made me think of it, but I can't remember now. Oh, the sorrows of getting old.
I wish I could empathize, but no, I don't wish I could empathize.
Yeah, I know you don't. All right, now here comes a story. I would assume this is in Acts.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you say, 27?
Yep, Acts 27.
And this is when Paul is going on trial for being a Christian. Now, I'm going to ask a couple silly questions, but was he imprisoned, or was he being held by the Romans, and so therefore he's kind of giving a defense so he can get out of jail, or were they threatening to put him in jail or kill him or whatever?
I think
it's okay if you don't know.
No, I think I remember in the chapters previous, people like the Israelites were getting mad enough at Paul that they were ready to kill him.
Okay.
But he also had Roman ties too, so he had a couple people on his side that are like, it's better to do this the official way. Let's not let an angry mob kill Paul.
Yeah.
Let's go through the proper motions, put him through a trial. I think he was imprisoned. I think actually from this point on, he was in prison for most of his life. He was in like the legal system, just going through that whole process.
How can we compare what's going on between Paul and the Pharisees, the Israelites, to something in modern day?
Ooh.
Because basically what Paul did is he abandoned the Israelites, the Pharisees, because he was one of the top ones. He was a teacher. He abandoned them, then he betrayed them. Because he turned around and said, you are wrong. You don't understand. This is God.
Mm-hmm.
So who could we think about in modern day that has done something like that?
Okay. So someone who just kind of does a whole 180 and changes their mind about the life that they were living before.
Yeah. I would say the legal term is to turn state's evidence, I think, is the term that they have. So if you're a crook or you're a bad guy and this is your clan, to go and tattle on them and give the proof so they can be prosecuted. That's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, there's there's a lot of like crime TV shows about that. You have some kind of criminal who gets recruited to kind of work for the police force or detective agency or whatever.
Yeah. Now, I wasn't going to ask you this question, but I am now. What character in the Bible reminds you of you the most?
Ooh, reminds me of me the most.
Yeah.
You
can think about that. I'd like to know that answer.
Yeah, that's a really big question. There's a lot of characters in the Bible, Mac.
Well, no, not really. I mean, how many? Seriously, there's only like 200 that we know their names. No? More maybe? I don't know. All right. So the last one you're going to share with us is this story about Paul going on trial. And this is Dr. Kayla's story time here on KPOG. Go ahead, young lady.
All right. So I'll go ahead and I'll ponder that question a little bit while I go over this story.
Okay.
So I mentioned before, we're starting off...
Hold on. You can tell a story and think about something different?
Well, no, but...
That's what you just said. I'm going to ponder that while I tell you this.
But the question...
You're talented.
Your question is kind of rooting in my brain. I'm hoping my brain has some, like, background tasks that it's working on.
I could bring up some names when you're done and see if any of them would say, oh, yeah, I'm like that person.
Yeah, please do.
All right, go ahead.
So, chapter 27 in Acts is when Paul starts sailing for Rome. So this is a whole boat story.
Sailing?
Yeah, on a boat.
For Rome? Oh, sailing Rome.
For Rome. Sailing to Rome.
To Rome. Yep. Okay. All right. Gotcha.
I would like highly recommend reading the chapter before this though, because it's kind of his trial story as well. We
But-
mentioned that the whole reason he's going to Rome is because he was put on trial and he like appealed to Caesar. So that's most of the reason why he is being taken or escorted to Rome,
Okay.
is to get to those higher courts.
Because he, in a way, is asking for what do they call that when they get sentenced and they don't like it, so they want another trial?
Appealing.
Appealing. Yeah, oh, you used that word. Go ahead. All
I
right.
think
So he's appealing now to the top court in the land, which is the Roman court.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're sailing to Rome, and it's not the easiest journey ever. They start getting some rough winds, and one of Paul's pieces of advice was giving, like, he gave the captain a couple of directions, like, hey, you should go this way, or you should, like, stay here on this island unless you want to lose some lives. And the captain just kind of disregarded him at that point. It was pretty early in the journey, too. And everyone voted, nah, let's keep going. Like, yeah, it's kind of rough, but I think it'd be better to hurry up along our way and get somewhere safer. So, I bet you didn't know that this is actually a shipwreck story. The Bible has a shipwreck story in it.
I did not know it. I know it had a whale wreck.
It does have a whale wreck story.
Yeah,
Thank you,
but
Noah.
that's different than
Yeah, so this is a proper
Noah.
shipwreck
No,
story.
Jonah.
Jonah, why did I say Noah?
I don't know because you're trying to think about who you relate to.
And Noah's got a boat too.
Noah does have a boat.
Yeah, it was a big one.
Big boat.
All right, so
Did you know that Noah's Ark had no way of steering itself?
that's terrifying.
Well, but why would you?
I mean,
You've got water all around you.
it's true.
You don't have any sails.
Yeah.
So
Very true.
you just go where it goes.
God was the rudder.
Oh,
God was the rudder. Thank you, Frank.
All right, go ahead. I'm going to lock that door from now on.
So I'll try to make it's a long voyage. I'll try to make it short because we're getting pretty close to 2 o'clock now. Essentially, it just got rougher and rougher to sail in the direction that they really wanted to. They got to a point where they were in a storm for several days. They were doing everything they could. They were throwing stuff off the ship at this point, trying to lighten the boat. There were even, at some point in the middle of all this, they haven't had food to eat for a while now. They were trying to save what they can because they have no idea how long they're going to be stuck in this storm in the middle of the ocean. Paul stands up in the middle of them one night and he says, hey, God spoke to me through an angel in a dream last night, and he told me what we can do to save everybody. And essentially, Paul was, again, giving directions to the captain, just like he had before. And he's like, we're going to run aground on this island, and we won't lose any lives if we do it this way. And this time, the captain listened to him.
Mm.
I don't know how long it was since the first time Paul tried to give orders to a captain, but I do know it has been about 2 weeks since all of these sailors had any kind of food. So I would say they're a lot more willing to listen to a higher power at this point.
They didn't have Grubhub back then?
Unfortunately not.
Somebody to deliver food to the boat?
Nope. Yeah,
Okay.
they didn't have any trained seagulls or anything.
Nothing.
Mm-mm.
Wow. Okay.
So they kind of feasted on what food was left over at that point and then threw everything overboard. And there were a couple of, they got close enough to this island that Paul was talking about, and some sailors are like, we're going to row ashore, we're out of here. And Paul said, get those sailors back on the boat. If they leave this boat, they're going to die. Because that was part of what God had told them. Nowhere in God's instructions did it say send the sailors on a little tiny rowboat.
But did it say don't let the sailors leave? Or it just wasn't in the message from God?
I believe, without quoting directly, I believe that God was promising protection to everybody on the ship.
On the ship, okay.
If they left the ship, they were outside of God's protection.
Okay, I understand that.
So the captain, again, listened to Paul and took him seriously. They not only got the sailors back on the boat, they cut off the rowboats from the ship to make sure nobody left.
Oh my.
And again, I'll cut the...
They were kind of being held hostage.
Kinda. I
Okay.
mean, it was stay on the boat or try your best in this storm that's still going on.
Now you gotta swim.
Pretty much.
All right.
So, I mean, they kind of ended up swimming anyway, because once they got close enough to this island, they did run aground, and they have like the front of the ship that's kind of trapped. It's grounded. It's not going anywhere. They still have the storm that's bashing this ship to pieces from behind. The ship is breaking up. It is a shipwreck at this point. So that is when it is safe for everybody to try and swim to the shore. There are sailors who can swim. The ones who didn't grabbed the chunks of wood that were coming off of the ship and floated to the island, where they had to recover, but eventually they were able to move on. Everyone survived, just like Paul had been told by God, and Paul eventually gets to Rome. But yeah, that's the shipwreck story that you didn't expect in the Bible.
Did he win his trial?
Kind of. I mean, he went to trial, but the whole point of him going to Rome was to be able to minister to the Romans, and in that he was successful.
Okay.
But he kind of was in prison for the rest of his life.
Yeah, because then he probably wrote the book of Romans.
He wrote a lot of the books in the New Testament.
I know that. You said that he was going to minister to the Romans.
Yeah.
I wonder when he wrote the book of Romans. Was it on this voyage or when he was imprisoned? I don't know if does it talk about being a prisoner? Oh, it does talk about him being a prisoner during the book of Romans. It does. Never mind. I know the answer.
I mean, he also calls himself a slave to God, too, so.
Right. All right. That's our Friday edition of Dr. Kayla's
Oh, wait. One last thing.
Story time.
My takeaway from this story.
Oh, yes. The moral of the story is...
It's not just a fun shipwreck story. My takeaway from this is the fact that God's authority is everything you really need in order to be in control of a situation.
Do you think God promises things like that now?
I think so.
I mean, why would he change? He wouldn't change that.
No, I think this is an aspect of God's nature that we can expect to never change.
Okay. So while you were talking, you were pondering, I think was the term you used.
Correct.
Have you come up with someone who you are like in the Bible?
I think I have someone kind of close right now. I thought about a couple of other people too. I was thinking maybe Jonah, because I like to run away from problems sometimes, but I don't have the bitterness that Jonah has. I was thinking about big names like Moses, who we were just talking about, but I'm not that amazing. So I think it might be because we're
yes,
talking...
you are, but go ahead.
Oh, thank you. It might be because we're talking a bit about Paul, but I think one of his disciples, Timothy, is who I'm going to go for as me relating to somebody in the Bible.
So everybody you mentioned was a male. I guess I was thinking more in the lines of a female, and I don't mean to make this about gender, but when I asked the question, I was thinking about females, and I think you're a lot like Martha.
Martha, why so?
Well, because you're gentle and you're smart, and I could see you washing the feet of Christ and ignoring what the other people in the room are complaining about.
Mary.
Don't do it. What?
Mary.
Frank votes that I'm more like Mary.
Martha's the sister in the kitchen.
Oh, Mary washed the feet. Well, okay.
They're both M-A-R names. So.
M-A-R-Y. Yeah, they are. I must admit, I thought it was Martha that did that, but it was Mary that did that.
Wow, we're just both really bad Christians today. We can't remember names, right?
I don't think we're bad Christians. I just think we're dumber than a box of rocks today.
Yep.
That happens a lot on Friday. All right. Thanks for coming in. And if you have a request for Dr. Kayla to tell a story that you enjoy, certainly let us know. We're both on Facebook, and June 30th, would that be right? No, before that. Anyway, the last Friday in June, we will do this again. And if someone has a story they'd like for Dr. Kayla to tell, she'd be glad to tell it. Or if you can, she'd come over to your house and like tell the kids before bedtime, and you could do that every day.
I take payment in snacks.
Payment in snacks. Okay, see, you are a part of Grubhub. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and thank you very much, Dr. Kayla. Look at this. She came on the show as 2 years out of high school, 2 years out of college, and now you've got a PhD. See,
Amazing.
God isn't the only amazing one in this room. Frank was here too.
Yep. Outside the room, though.
He never really came in, did he?
He poked his head in.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I will remind you that our series on forgiveness from Bruce Wilkinson will continue next week. And I'm not going to tell you I've been struggling, because struggling isn't the right word. But I'm trying to find the words to help you understand how much this course is doing for me. And I've taken this course and I've taught this course. But something has happened this time. You know, it's kind of like that thing where your mom tells you 150 times to do something, and on the 151st you go, Mom, you are so smart. Why didn't you tell me this before?
My mom only tells me 3 times.
And then what?
Then I get it.
Listen to you. Then you get it. All right. All right. That's good. I would like to tell you that was me also, but I don't think I got it until I was 50. Seriously. That's when Jesus mugged me. Then I began to get it. You know, the old saying, all of a sudden when you're older, your parents seem like they really know a lot. And
sure.
It took me to 50. That's how old I had to get. Anyway, however God works in your life, that's how we want him to work in your life and all the people around you. So if you have a Bible story that you'd like Dr. Kayla to tell, jump on her Facebook page or mine. And I imagine you just put in Kayle, or she's Kayla.
That's how you spell it.
And her last name starts with an S, and so you could find her, and you could also find her because we'd be friends on Facebook, her and I.
Yeah, like good luck spelling my whole last name.
Well, and I just don't want to give your last name on the radio, but
Yep.
starts with an S. An S.
I googled it once on like Google Maps. It's an entire village in Germany.
Really?
Yeah.
So you bad joke. So you're the village idiot.
Nah.
No.
I'm the one who got out.
Oh yes, Jesus came to heal the broken heart and set the captives free. So he set you free from the little village in Germany.
Amen. Not that
Sounds
I've ever
like
been there. Disclaimer.
Yeah, sounds like the story of Heidi. You know the story of Heidi?
Maybe.
She belonged to a small village, but it wasn't in Germany. I think it was in someplace else. And her father was a sheep herder. No, she lived with her grandfather, a sheep herder. And she wanted to escape that world. And in the long moral of the story, home was where the heart was, and she should just stay where she is.
Yep.
That's the story of Heidi. You are too young to remember that movie, though.
Probably.
Yeah. Do you remember Sound of Music?
I do know that one.
All right. All right. I will see you again here well, I'm not going to see you Monday. Monday is a holiday, and I am an individual who takes a holiday off. And so I will be here Tuesday, and we will restart at least for a week or so. Well, no, that's not true. I have this study of forgiveness planned all the way through July, but we could break for sometimes when Dr. Kayla comes on or somebody like that. Until then, remember, you have someone that you need to forgive. Forgive them, because that's how God will treat you. Amen?
Amen.
Amen.
So most people gotta wander in the
Jiminy
wilderness for 40
Christmas.
years.
Mhm.
That's what he was trying to tell you.
Gotcha.
Now, do you remember the Heidi Bowl, Mac?
The Heidi Bowl?
Yeah.
I'm afraid to answer this. No.
Okay. In 1969.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, I do remember this.
In 1969,
Uh-huh.
the New York